start to your vector landscape project. This is a really cool one. They're printed incredibly large. As you will learn about Illustrator, you can increase the size without losing any image quality indefinitely. So while we will be working with a particular size, your prints can get a lot larger with no loss whatsoever. So here's a look at a finished example, or my finished example, but don't worry, I'll be rebuilding it with you from scratch. So, but this should hopefully give you a quick little preview of kind of what we're doing. Let me go ahead and hide some layers here and show you kind of like the original source photo right here, kind of like of a mountainous beach or rocky beach. And then step by step, let me zoom out so you get the whole thing. What I did was I created an outline to kind of almost like coloring book the image, kind of breaking down each section into distinct colors, looking for where either shape was or where color was to kind of block them in. You'll notice with the sky, don't recommend that you do it. If you have a sky with some like a lot of clouds in it and you want to try it, you can, but I like keeping them a simple kind of gradient or ombre at the very end of the project. So there that is right there, just as the outline. After you outline it, you will be filling in every outline with color, like so, right here. After you do that, you'll notice, I almost guarantee everybody will have this occurrence. You'll probably have some that don't color correctly. You'll see these sharp white ones right here. There's a pretty easy trick to catch that as you go, or to fix it afterwards, I should say. So there it is. There's the fixed layer right here, or fill. I have it as labeled. And then if I zoom out a little bit more, you'll see that at the very end, I add in a simple little gradient to help the background. The one extra thing that I haven't done yet that I'm saving as a big reveal later in the project is taking out the black outlines, and they poof away instantly, and then that way you can decide whether you like them in your final print or you don't. So you'll have both options available to you. All right, so what we'll be doing today is setting up our file and importing our image into that file. Also embedding the image, which is honestly one of, if not the most important part of the project. If you don't do so, next time you open your file, your image will be gone, and you'll have to start over. So please pay attention to this. All right, the first things first is you want to open up Adobe Illustrator. I already have mine open, but let me show you a pretty cool, quick, easy way to open it for those who haven't. On your keyboard, I want you to look at the top row of your keys that say like F1, F2, F3. You're going to look for F4. It has kind of like a 6 little square icon in it. If you click that, like this, it'll bring you with the search feature. Now, these are all my recently used programs, so you'll see Illustrator and whatnot. But if you go to the top where it says search, just type in ILL, and that should bring up Adobe Illustrator. You're looking for, hopefully, the 2021 version. If there's 2020, that'll be okay as well. Just maybe not updated just yet. So don't worry, you won't need any brand new features. All right, go ahead and open Illustrator, or alternatively, you could take this icon right here and you can click and drag it onto your bottom taskbar. That way you have it there for later. And that way you won't have to search it every time when opening. You'll notice I've done that with both Photoshop and Illustrator, since we'll be using those two often. All right. Once Illustrator is open, you're going to be looking at something maybe slightly different than mine. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this and not save it. Don't worry about what I'm doing right now, just to kind of show you. You might be looking at a screen kind of like this. If you get this whole little clip right here, go ahead and click this X in the top right. And then you'll be looking at this. Any recent files or projects that you've worked on will be down here. And then a bunch of other random stuff will be up here for like sizes and stuff. We just want to create a new one. So let's go all the way up to the top of your Mac UI where it says File, and then hit New. After that, I have everything relatively set up, but I do want to go over it to make sure. First things first, your dimensions. If it comes in pixels right now, please change it to inches. We're going to be printing everything that we do this year, I think, just about. So make sure that it's in inches. Width and height, this really matters, but it could be rotated. If your image is wider, like longer left and right, than it is tall, you would want the width to be 18 inches. You would want to, and then 12 for the height. This is, again, for a longer rectangle. You can see here a little preview like this. If you're like me, though, and you have a taller one, if you click this, they'll swap. So we do want 12 by 18, but you can change them or swap them depending on if you have a tall or wide format, or what they call portrait and landscape orientation. So again, think about your photo. Think if it's taller or wider. If you have a square and you do not want to crop it, like you want it to remain a square, then you would just actually do 12 by 12. Talk to me individually if you do, though. I want to double check before you do that. Your print will look slightly different than everybody else's, which is okay, but it's going rogue a little bit. All right, bleed here. Just make sure everything is 0. Art boards should be 1. Color mode sometimes might come up as RGB. You want CMYK for everything that we print. This is printer ink, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So make sure that says CMYK, and if it does say RGB. Raster effects should be at high with a 300 pixels per inch. And then everything else should just be default, so don't worry about anything else. So again, right here, that's it. Once you're done, go ahead and hit create. After you do, it might take a couple seconds to kind of like render the file, and then there we go, we're good. Now, one of the most important features of both Photoshop and Illustrator are your layers. You had layers in Sketchbook. They're in a slightly different location here in Illustrator. They don't come up by default. If you look over here on the right side of your screen, you will see one that looks like 2 slices of Velveeta cheese, or I don't know, whatever cheese you buy. Click that, and you'll see that layers will pop up. We only have one right now, which is just layer 1, which is fine. Just want to bring your attention to this. I almost exclusively have this open the entire time. If for whatever reason you cannot find this, like it is not here, the slices of cheese are MIA, you can go to Window, and then all the way down in alphabetical order, you should find layers right there. Voila. All right. So your image, your chosen landscape, we hopefully have researched around 3 to 5 in between, and you've decided on your one. I have mine right here. This is my original photo that I found online. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it into the white rectangle or our canvas. So I've opened up where the file is. If your file is on your desktop, let me actually minimize out of here. And you're like, ooh, I can't see it. Something you could do is move Illustrator over a little bit like this by clicking and dragging towards the top. And let's say your file's right here. Then you could click and drag your file into the white space. Maybe to give you a little bit of a better look at that, I'll do is I'll take this out here for now, minimize this. Let's pretend my thing's on my desktop. And I'm just going to take this and click and drag. You'll see a little plus sign come up maybe originally, and then if you let go, it will appear inside. And then I can move Illustrator back over. Something I want to do right now is zoom out. Obviously, my photo is huge. If your photo is tiny or huge, either way, don't worry. We're going to do some resizing pretty much no matter what. Zooming in and out of Illustrator, there is a zoom tool, but in my opinion, it's hot garbage. Don't use it. Best way to zoom, honestly, the most controlled way is Command and minus to zoom out, and then Command and plus to zoom in. So Command is to the left or right of your space bar, and then hold that down and hit minus, and you'll see that it zooms you out. And then if you hit Command plus, it will zoom you in. I'm going to zoom out a lot because I have a lot of extra photo that I need to size down here. If you're enhancing your photo, you will just kind of do the opposite of what we're about to do, but all the tools are the exact same. So now that I can see my entire source photo or stock photo, I'm ready for the next step. In the top left over here, or on the left side of your screen, are tools. The very top left tool, which is like a black arrow, is called the selection tool. You'll see that the hotkey for it is V. You could just hit V on your keyboard. Selection tool is essentially like a Photoshop move tool, and they copied the hotkey. All right. Once you have it, go to any corner pocket of your image, and you'll notice that your icon, when you're hovering over one of those anchor points, will change to kind of like a diagonal arrow. Before you go ahead and click and drag, because you'll notice that if you click and drag right now, your image can get really wonky. That before you click and drag, I want you to hold down the Shift key. If you hold down the Shift key and then click and drag while holding Shift, you'll see that your image stays in scale. And then let go of Shift, and then you can move it back into position. It depends on what you want to show in your final image. Not all of it will make the cut. Notice that black outline of the rectangle. That's what shows us, the graphic designers, what is going to make the final cut and what isn't. I'm going to zoom in here with Command Plus just to get a better look. Anything outside that rectangle right now will not print. The graphic designer in this case, can still see it, and I can actually even still work on it as it's outside this rectangle, like in these areas over here and over here, but it won't print. The print zone is inside that black outline. So get your image scaled and also placed in an area that you're satisfied with. And we have one extra step. You can pause this video, or I will pause it as I'm teaching it to you before we get to this. But this last part coming up is the most important. We have to get this done. All right, let's pretend that everybody has their image in and placed and ready. Your layers. Again, right over here, it just says layer 1. What I would like for you to do right now is double click where it says layer 1, and you'll see that it kind of highlights the word. And then you can type, and just type in the word stock, S-T-O-C-K, photo, P-H-O-T-O, and then hit enter or return. That way it names our layers. This will help us with organization, and it's also a grade requirement. All right, after you have that, right now you can tell that I have the image selected because of the bounding box around the side, the big cross through it. This is what it'll look like if it's not selected, like if you've clicked off into the open gray. So what I want everybody to do is select their image right now. It should look like mine. After that, your menus on the top will have changed. It should look like this. The one that you're looking for is right here, called Embed. What this does is it lets Illustrator memorize the source photo or the stock photo so that you no longer need the file on your computer, just in case you move it or delete it. Even if like right now my source photo is on my desktop, this over right here. If I were to move that back to the original folder it was from without embedding, Illustrator would have no idea what's going on, and it would just end up glitching out and deleting my photo, and I would have to do this all over again. So like I was saying in the beginning of this video, this embed thing is incredibly important. Anything that we do in Illustrator this year with a stock photo must be embedded. So go ahead and click embed. Once you click embed, you'll notice that it'll change to unembed. Don't click that. We want to leave it embedded. So we are now good to go. We're just going to save our file. Our file name is really important, so I guess pay attention to this as well. File, up here in the top left of your overall Mac UI, and then Save As, right here. After you click Save As, you might have to give a second for it to kind of like render. While working on a file, I highly recommend that you put it on your desktop. This way, it's easy to access, and then when you're done, then you can organize it in your documents or on Google Drive. But as a current project, please put it on your desktop. Instead of Untitled 1, go ahead and click, drag, select that. I want you to name it your first name, your last name, and then vector, V-E-C-T-O-R, landscape. Landscape. Make sure that it says .ai for Adobe Illustrator file. We need it to stay this file type until we're ready to print at the very least. Sometimes I like even printing from an AI. You'll see format down here, I should say that. After you have all that set into place, you can hit save. Next time, we won't have to do any of this. You can just hit save and you're good to go. All right. Version 2020 is perfect. That way it'll work with anything newer. And then all of this here should just be fine by default. You shouldn't really have to change any of this. And then hit OK. All right, you're good to go. You can close out of Illustrator and be ready for the next part, next class. Take care, guys.